Welcome to the 3PN YouTube channel. This is Nelly Otari and I am your narrator for the book, The Secret Lives of Baba Segi's Wives. And remember that we started chapter 1 in our first episode, and that chapter ended with Bolanle, his fourth wife. Remember, he has 3 wives. He has Segi, he has Tokba, he has Femi. And now Bolanle is his fourth wife that has not given him a child. And they agreed to go to the hospital to go find out what the problem was with Bolanle's womb. So please stay with us on this chapter. We're moving on to chapter 2, and it is titled Polygamist. I didn't just happen upon this room. I dreamed of the pale green walls before I arrived. Now the built-in wardrobe is mine, and so is the ceiling fan. My window looks over a backyard with patchy but neatly trimmed grass. Damp clothes flap in the evening breeze and perfume the air with detergent. On the back wall, an iron drum is darkened from burned refuse. A tap jutes from the grass and a wetted concrete slab lies beneath it. It's not a perfect view, but it is mine. There are no flowers or trees, no fields, no rolling hills. Just a vegetable patch where Iyafemi cultivates just peppers. I know that smell well. My mother used to cut them into fried eggs whenever she felt pregnant. The aroma from the frying pan would keep the rest of us on the cups of a sneeze. Then one day, as Mama sat in the front yard wrinkling her nose, the babies would leak down her leg. Who could blame them? Maybe they heard her relentless nagging and decided that it was better to be born unformed. I must have covered my ears when I was in her womb, or perhaps she was quieter then. Don't get me wrong. I didn't only come here to get away from my mother. I came to get away from the feeling of filth that followed me. If I had stayed at home, I knew the day would come when Mama would come to my room and find pools of blood at my wrists. After everything happened, I tried hard to continue being myself, but I slowly disappeared. I became Bolanle, the soiled, damaged woman. Except that was hard too, because Mama kept trying to make me do all the things the old Bolanle would have done. Don't you think you should get a job, Bolanle? Won't you apply for this bank job in the newspapers, Bolanle? Didn't you see the handsome boy that was looking at you, Bolanle? How could I tell her that I had failed to preserve my dignity? I was too ashamed to let her see the fickle shell I had become. Inevitably, it became unbearable. The more she pushed, the more I resisted. I didn't want a job. I didn't want a white wedding. I just wanted the war between who I used to be and who I had become to end. I didn't want to fight anymore. Somehow, it all made perfect sense when I met Baba Segi. At last, I would be able to empty myself of my sorrow. I would be with a man who accepted me, one who didn't ask questions or find my quietness unsettling. I knew Baba Segi wouldn't be like younger men who demanded explanations for the faraway look in my eye. Baba Segi was content when I said nothing. So, yes, I chose this home, not for the monthly allowance, not for the lace skirt suits, and not for the coral bracelets. Those things mean nothing to me. I chose this family to regain my life, to heal in anonymity. And when you choose a family, you stay with them. You stay with your husband even when your friends call him a polygamist ogre. You stay with him when your mother says he's an overfed orangutan. You look at him in another light and see a large but kindly generous soul. After I had first met him, I told my sister, Lara, that I'd found the perfect man for me. You want to marry a polygamist and be a big part of an ugly family. Mama will go crazy. When will you tell her? She cackled. She knew that for once it would be me on the receiving end of Mama's exasperation. Soon, I said. Mama's reaction was predictable. She listened impatiently to my intentions and then said she would like to claw out the eyes of this man who had misled me. Just to hear him wail, she added. When she saw that I was unmoved, she tried her unique brand of persuasion. Your future will be futile and uninteresting, she said. Polygamy is for gold diggers and bush dwellers, not educated children brought up in a good Christian home. I thought this was funny because we had never been churchgoers. Mama said it was shameful for a woman to go to church without her husband, and Daddy said Sundays were supposed to be the days of rest, as the Bible itself stipulated. By the time Mama was wailing about me embarrassing my bloodline, I was daydreaming about the peace I would have in my husband's house. The day Baba Segi came to collect me, I scanned the bedroom I had shared with my sister for 21 years. the powdery fadedness of the aquamarine walls, the window with missing louvers and rusted frames, Lara's waist beads hanging from a nail above her head, the small bookcase displaying my collection of Mills and Bond novels. I will miss the comforting tales of syrupy romance that I immersed myself in. I knew I couldn't take them all, so I picked out 6. Lara snorted in her sleep, and I wondered what my nights would be like without the constancy of her breathing or her sleep talking. She would fight Mama constantly in her nightmares. Whatever curtsies held her back during the day were discarded at night time. It didn't bother me that I wouldn't have a tiered wedding cake, confetti, a veil, or a half-fallen sermon from a practiced priest. I didn't expect any nuggets of wisdom from my mother, echoes of look after her daughter from my father, and certainly no mad dash for a final carside embrace from Lara. Since I had announced my departure date, Lara had withdrawn from me, as if I was a deserter. Every time she walked out of our room, she would shut the door firmly, not slamming it, as I knew she would have wanted to. After a brief vote of thanks, Baba Segi waited in the big pickup with his driver. I put my bags in the back and sat next to him. I must have looked uncertain as the vehicle picked up speed, because Baba Segi turned to me with a sweet sympathy in his eyes. Everyone is prepared for your arrival. Tonight, you will sleep in your own bedroom. He ran his knuckles along my thigh. The driver's eyes followed, so I lay my knee flush against the car seat. I knew there was something I wouldn't like about that Taju fellow. We dipped and dove along the rain-ravaged roads, jolted from side to side, until we paused behind a battered blue Mercedes at Agbowo Junction. My insides felt as if they had been stirred with a heavy wooden spoon. While we waited for the traffic warden to wave us through, bread sellers descended on the pickup. Little fingers force-fed the car through the half-open window on the passenger side. I recoiled and leaned heavily on Baba Segi. Every hand clutched a clear pullenting bag containing a loaf of bread and a bright-colored rectangular label. God's will bread, Jesus' body bread, home of godliness bread, my dad of a miracle bread, altar of mercy bread. Give my new wife 1 loaf each, Baba Segi said. The loaves dropped onto my lap and a tang of fermented dough rose to my nostrils. I resisted the urge to shake them onto the footmat. If Baba Segi had known me better, he would have realized how much I detested bread, the way it clawed up the throat and hardened the belly. I wondered how much my new family would like it when I appeared, arms laden with warm constipation. Baba Segi pushed 20 naira notes into the children's palms and nodded Taju back onto the road. There are many things in this life to find joy in, so you mustn't be downcast. Give some thought to your husband. I forced a smile. Motorcycles darted through the traffic and pumped fading clouds of smoke into our faces. Baba Segi fanned in his nostrils and belched. I looked away so I wouldn't embarrass him. He wasn't the most sophisticated man, but there was time. He wasn't so old that he couldn't change. I told myself I would devote time to teaching him good manners. We'll be home soon. Baba Segi took my left hand into both of his hands and leaned forward, eagerly setting his eyes on the road ahead like a child. I'm eager to meet your new family, I said, but the words came out flat and feeble. Taju smirked and cast me a mocking side glance. I was right. I didn't like him. I'm eager for my body to meet yours, Baba Segi whispered. After a few more minutes of hand stroking, we turned into a short driveway. There was a trampoline sheet draped over 4 wooden poles. 3 girls were playing 10-10 at the gate. They were dressed in smock skirts from the same cheap checkered fabric. Whips of braided hair met atop their heads like claps fingers. As soon as they spotted the pickup approaching, they jumped into the air and cheered. Before long, more children had joined in the father has returned chant. An older boy appeared and pulled them out of harm's way. The children couldn't hide their disappointment when they saw me, but Baba Segi didn't appear to notice. He puffed out his chest and told the children to welcome their new auntie. The girls curtsied brusquely and the boys did hurried half bows. Baba Segi, they are the very image of you, I said to him. Who will leopard cubs resemble if not the leopard? Let's go indoors and meet the mother of the home and my other wives. He slid a tinted glass door aside, and there they were, his wives, lined up in a row, caught in the act of satisfying their curiosity. I lowered myself onto my knees and greeted them. Only the one wearing dowdy clothes bothered to open her mouth to return the greeting. Then she glanced quickly at the other wives. The large one rolled onto her toes and gave me a head-to-shoe examination. I guessed that she was the mother of the home. She stood tall, hands on hips. The wife with crimson lipstick wore 3 gold bangles that jiggled at her wrist. I had never seen such a contrast in skin color. She might as well have been a zebra. While her forearms had a naturally deep hue, her knuckles were a sandy yellow. Purple veins rippled as she attacked a black head on her chin. She hummed a distant response to my greeting. They would need lessons in etiquette too. I perched on a stool while the wives sat in large armchairs. The children shuffled around the room and whispered among themselves. To ease the uncomfortable silence, I told the wife with two-toned skin how gorgeous her skirt and blouse were. The fabric was 100% linen, embroidered with small violets. Even the buttons were shaped like flower buds. Uneducated women wear good things too, she retorted. I had to start by showing them how to make compliments gracefully. To take my mind off the awkwardness, I took outside through the tinted glass doors. At that moment, a blazing sun ray struck the darkened glass and filtered into the room through a small chip. The chip broke the beam with its jagged edges and scattered embers all over the room. One landed on my foot like a falling firefly. Then the sun crept behind a cloud and everything dissolved into hot air. But the chip remained, secretly concealing its radiance behind the small crack. Shaped like the tick of a tentative hand, I took it as a sign. I was home. "Will you women gape at my new wife until I starve to death?" Baba Segi asked. "Not in this lifetime, my lord." The eldest wife, Shegi, moved quickly for one so generously proportioned. The floor shuddered with her every step. The other wives scurried after her. Looking back, now that 2 years have passed, I realized how naive I was to expect a warmer welcome. I was foolish to think I would just be an insignificant addition, when in reality, I was coming to take away from them. With my arrival, 2.33 nights with Baba Segi became 1.75. His affections, already thinly divided now, had to be spread among 4 instead of 3. The women have not changed. Iyatokpa is still cordial, even kind when I'm alone in the house with her. She doesn't say much except when she's talking about hair. Her eyebrows bounce around in their sockets and she uses her fingers to draw the hairstyles in thin air. I often ask her about hairstyles just to hear a friendly voice that belongs to another grown woman. The other 2 are a different story. They still have not forgiven me for the affection Baba Segi has for me. Shegi and Femi shout, hiss and spit. When they sweep the floor, all the time singing satirical songs to ridicule me. But it's not their fault that they are so uncouth. Living with them has taught me the value of education, of enlightenment. I have seen the dark side of illiteracy. So deep-seated is their disdain for my university degree that they smear my books with palm oil and hide them under the kitchen cupboards. I have often found missing pages from my novels in the dustbin, the words scribbled over the charcoal. It's not as if I haven't tried. I offered to teach the wives to read. Iyatokpe was keen to learn, but then I found Femi tearing up sheets from the exercise books to line the kitchen cupboards. When I reminded her why I had bought them, she said I could crawl into the cabinets and teach the insects if I still wanted to serve them that purpose. I have tried to help the children too. I told them to assemble in the dining room so I would read to them. Only Iyatokpe's daughters turned up the first day. The next morning, Shegi told me not to be in a hurry, that I should wait until I have my own children if I was so eager to become a teacher. Such is the extent to which they conceal their yearning for enlightenment. They try to throw me off by making as if their coarseness is a thing of pride, but I see through the subterfuge. I will not give up on them. I will bring light to their darkness. The children follow the examples of their mothers set already. Femi's sons will not sit on the chair I have vacated. When I walk past them in the corridor, they turn to the wall and flatten themselves against it. No matter how many times I offer them sweets, they still treat me as I have a contagious disease. I can only wonder what their mother has filled their young ears with. Iyatokpe's girls are polite but distant. Sometimes they bring my meals to my bedroom. I know their footsteps. They shuffle around the house together, arm in arm, like conjoined triplets. Shegi has 2 children. The eldest, Shegi, is 15. She's a dutiful sister to her siblings, but I think she's afraid that I have come to take her place. I see her anger when I offer to help the other children with their homework. She does not speak to me, but I often see her shadow by the door. It is a wonder that she has not told Shegi that Aki, her brother, comes to my room when he needs help with his homework. Aki is my favorite. He knocks before he enters my room. He comes to help me if I have heavy bags, as he does with all the other wives. He greets me before I greet them. I've told him he was born with decorum. When he asks what decorum means, I tell him to look it up in the dictionary. He does, and thanks me the next day. One day, they will all love me. I will buy their affection with the money Baba Segi gives me if I have to. I'll bring sweets home for the little ones. I'll buy Aki a brand new satchel and get Shegi one of those new velvet hair bands to harness that wide mane of hers. I'll be a big sister to her. I'll tell her everything I know about the world outside so she doesn't make the mistakes I made. One day, they will all accept me as a member of this family. One day, I will have a child of my own and everything will fall into place. My husband will delight in me again, the way he did before my barrenness ate away at his affection. Wow! Chapter 2 has just ended. Amazing. Well, Bolanle took us on, she took us down memory lane, how she was before she met Baba Segi, why she got married to Baba Segi, saying she got married to him because she felt she would have peace, and, so she doesn't have to explain the faraway look in her eyes. Well, 2 years down the line, she has no child for him yet. 2 of the 3 senior wives still treat her badly, and she has still not been able to gain the affection of everybody in the house. But she has said that she would buy their affection with the money Baba Segi gives her if she has to. In this chapter, we really did not see the visit to the hospital that was promised in chapter 1. But let's go on with the book. Next episode, we'll move on to chapter 3 and see if that's talked about. This is the 3BN channel. Please do well to subscribe so you can be the first to know when we put up the next chapter for this book, The Secret Lives of Baba Segi's Wives. So, till then, please stay happy, stay strong.